In order to complete your CRAP evaluation assignment, you'll need to be able to summarize each of your sources into just 1 or 2 sentences. To prepare you for this, let's talk about what it means to summarize. To summarize means to reduce the most essential points of someone else's work into a shorter form. Summaries vary in length and in detail. For your assignment, you'll be aiming for a single sentence, though 2 sentences are okay if you need more space. Summarize when the idea is important, but the details and wording are not. And summarize anytime the section or passage you're citing is long. In order to summarize, first make sure you understand the meaning of the original passage. That's very important. You can't summarize if you don't understand what you're talking about. Then take the most important elements and capture their meaning in your own words. Finally, because you're using someone else's idea, provide a reference both in text and at the end of the paper. Now let's look at a couple of examples from pop culture, because I think it might help to see a summary outside the context of college writing. Summary is absolutely everywhere. Lol My Thesis is a Tumblr blog that challenges graduate students to, quote, sum up years of work in 1 sentence, unquote. The example seen here, Grover from Sesame Street was right about near and far, summarizes a nearly 300-page thesis into a single sentence. Such drastic summarizing, especially with the intent of being humorous, is extreme and not a great example for what you'll be doing, but it is technically a summary, and it does get down to 1 sentence. Another example. Many of you may be familiar with Lin-Manuel Miranda's Tony Award-winning musical, Hamilton the Musical, which contains one of the most impressive summaries I could think of. The opening number of the musical is a 3-minute, 58-second hip-hop song that summarizes the first 2 chapters, or 40 pages, of Ron Chernow's biography of founding father Alexander Hamilton. It spans Hamilton's birth in St. Kitts and Nevis to his arrival in New York at age 15. Okay, one more goofy pop culture example, and then I'll be finished. Netflix is notorious for their ridiculous, misleading, and frequently ungrammatical plot summaries of musicals and of movies and television shows. This particular synopsis is for a movie called Butter, a well-reviewed movie with an all-star cast. But boy, does it sound stupid from this summary, which just goes to show not all summaries are good summaries. Now for the less fun but more useful examples. We're going to look at 2 source passages, then look at summaries of each of them, one using APA style and the other using MLA style, so you can see them being used. Our first source passage is by R.S. Nickerson from a 1999 article in the journal Psychological Bulletin. I'll read it to you. In order to communicate effectively with other people, one must have a reasonably accurate idea of what they do and do not know that is pertinent to the communication. Treating people as though they have a knowledge that they do not have can result in miscommunication and perhaps embarrassment. On the other hand, a fundamental rule of conversation, at least according to a Grecian view, is that one generally does not convey to others information that one can assume they already have. Now, here's a poor attempt at summary. In fact, it's so poorly summarized that it's plagiarized. All of the words and phrases in red are directly taken from the original, with no quotation marks. In addition, the first sentence uses the exact same structure as the original. And finally, there are no internal citations to tell us how much of this material is from Nickerson and how much is the author's own ideas. Here we see a summary that compresses Nickerson's paragraph into just 2 sentences. We still understand what Nickerson's saying, but the wording and structure are completely different, and the length is much shorter. And of course, you can see the in-text citations in an APA style. Our next sample source is from essayist Rebecca Solnit's 1999 book, Savage Dreams, A Journey into the Landscape Wars of the American West. I'll read it to you. By and large, Yosemite has been preserved as though it were a painting. The boundaries of the park are the gilt frame around a masterpiece, And within the frame, we are urged to take only pictures, leave only footprints. There are enormously important reasons to do so. There are too many people coming to the park to do it any other way. And yet I cannot help feeling something is sadly missing from this experience of nature. Looking is a fine thing to do to pictures, but hardly an adequate way to live in the world. It is nature as a place in which we do not belong, a place in which we do not live, in which we are intruders. A tourist is by definition an outsider, a person who does not belong, a stranger in paradise. Again, we begin by looking at an incorrect attempt at summary that constitutes plagiarism. Here you can see that the phrases highlighted in red are verbatim, and the sentence structure is almost identical. This reads like someone took a thesaurus and replaced a few words here and there, which, as we learned in our Did I Plagiarize infographic, is called cherry-picking plagiarism. Here we see a summary which is much shorter than the source paragraph. It still captures the meaning, but focuses only on the main points, which it expresses in entirely new language and sentence structure. Note, too, the in-text citations in MLA style. Now, before you move on to your assignment, try challenging yourself. Practice summary by summarizing your favorite books, movies, or television shows into a single sentence. See if you can get your loved ones to guess what books and TV shows and movies you're trying to summarize. Here's my attempt. An abused young boy learns that he is a wizard and spends the next 7 years of his life fighting against evil to save the world. A one-sentence summary of the 7 Harry Potter books. Now go see how you can do. And of course, as always, if you have questions, post to the general discussion board, or if it's something you think only you will be interested in, email your professor.